we could get to all of them, but I'm like, there's little, scenes that they might be short, but they do offer a lot of insight.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have one off the top of your head right now?
Of scenes?
Yeah. Is something that, what's your favorite, if you could pick one?
I think, because I did talking about like the connections with the kids and how, they bring up the what's it called, the siblings and all of that. Like, I really like that. That's like one of my favorite ones. So like at the top of my head, I really wanted to talk about that one, just because I'm like, it shows that like little explanation, of the job and the apples, and then you see the strings, and so it really has that intensity of like, wow, like, they do lose the connections. But I think that another scene that I really like is like when they're in the connection of the scenes where they're in their honeymoon state, like you mentioned, like they're just on honeymoon and they're like, yeah, we got really lucky, like they're so good. And I think the kids have been there for like a couple of days, and then all of a sudden, it turns into that chaos with that song in the background, the Christmas Eve by the Trans-Siberian Orchestra.
Yeah.
That's like one of my favorite scenes as well, because like not just the music, but just the intensity of like, oh my God, now the kids are going wild. Like now Lita's throwing her fit, and then you can see where Lizzie is trying to butt in, and then Ellie's like, no, I got this. And she's like, why are you screaming at me? Like, I'm just trying to help. And so like the chaos just like, you see all of that unravel. And I think I really like that too, because they, sugarcoat it a little bit and like, oh my God, everything's going so good. And then you see the support group talking about their kids and how wild they are and how crazy they are, or the things that they do. And they're like, no, we got this. And then the next scene is that whole, Christmas is coming and chaos and ketchup everywhere and things like that. So yeah, I think that's another one of my favorite scenes, because they're like, you're actually seeing the chaos of what it really is to be with a foster kid, not just like, oh yeah, we're good for a couple of days because we don't know you, but then the real us comes out.
When when they're at the adoption counselors, and then they're like, yeah, I think we got really lucky with these kids, and then everyone just starts laughing at them.
Yeah, exactly.
We're just like, oh yeah, just wait.
They're like, no, for real. Like, I think they're just good kids. Yeah, I think that's also one of my favorite scenes. I was like, oh my God, this is perfect. They're like, yeah, what's happening? And then it's like chaos, because it just keeps going and going and going with like other scenes, So yeah, let me see. I know that there's. Oh, okay. So one of the most important ones that I thought that I wanted to touch base on really quick was the first incident that happened that gets Lizzie to kind of start trusting them, because there's there's the chaos, and it's very hectic between them, and sometimes they're good and all of a sudden they turn bad and things like that. And then all of a sudden there's the incident where Juan gets hurt by the nail gun, and they're just like, oh, it's okay, like we're here for you, and Lizzie gets to see that, and you can see her realization of like, oh my God, they do care, like they're acting like parents because they have to be, that she's getting grounded, they're telling her she can't leave the house, they're telling her how to change, what to wear and this and that, and she's just kind of like giving them that attitude of like, oh, it doesn't matter, like I'm gonna be out of here, like I'm just gonna call my worker and I don't want to be here anymore. And then in that situation, she sees the warmth and how they're there to support Juan and telling him like, it's okay, buddy, don't worry. And you see the realization of like, oh my God, they do care. And I really like that too, because like you really see it in her face. You see her seeing them and really kind of like in the end of when the caseworker comes and all that, she's like, no, like this was all my fault, like I don't want to get removed, like this is why they move people. And you see the kind of the desperateness, I guess, in her voice of like, they're gonna move us, because in those occasions, like, the foster kids get hurt. I think I was moved due to a physical interaction with one of my foster parents as well. I just, I was a kid and I got slapped because I called my foster parent the B word. Because I found out she wasn't sending my letters. I'm like, so I know that I can kind of connect to like being moved from a house, because an incident like this happened. And you can kind of see her turn, I guess, like she's trying to protect them. She's trying not to get removed. She's trying, like, no, it was my fault. Like, they didn't do anything, because she saw that they actually truly care. So I really enjoyed that scene as well. I mean, poor Juan, he got hurt, but you see that in that moment, she's like, oh my God, like, they're actually good people. They're actually trying to help and be there for us.
Yeah, that was definitely one of the big, like, impact scenes. Because if you notice, Lizzie drops like the argument right away, where she's just like, she tells her friends, you guys got to get out of the car. We need the car right now. And it just becomes all about her brother, you know what I mean? And she, going back to what you said, she can tell like that, Pete and Ellie really are there like 100%. And she's really surprised by that.
Yeah. Exactly. And so I really like how they did that, because, in their foster home before that, they weren't really getting that attention in a sense. So it's nice for her. There's good people out there, and it gives that connection where, there's foster parents out there who aren't great, and all they do is just keep the kid alive. And there's foster parents out there who actually do care, and they take care of you and stick up for you and things like that. And I had my share of both, of like some foster parents who really didn't do much for me, and then other ones who even wanted to adopt me. So I know how it can be like, on the two sides of that coin.
What are your thoughts on the jumping towards the end? When Lizzie gets caught and kind of, I guess they don't actually do anything, but she's like sexting the older guy who's like the maintenance guy for the school.
Oh no, yeah, it's when they find out and they go to the school, right, and they're like trying to defend her and being like, first they think it's the other kid. And they're just like, why, harassing him and telling him and all that. And I obviously, they kind of turn into that, like parental control in a sense. They turn into that whole, hey, that's my daughter. Once they catch up with the janitor, like the real Jacob. And then he's like, you ever do that? Like, he doesn't even say, like, to Lizzie or to her. Like, he's just like, my daughter, like, watch, like, I'm going to kill you and things like that. So with that whole, like, scene, I mean, they get arrested and the police officer says, like, hey, like, I would have done the same thing. And I think I would have done the same thing, finding out my kids doing that. And especially, not even just because he was a kid, like they go up to the kid. It doesn't matter like the age. It's just, inappropriate. And then finding out that it's an actual like 22-year-old. And I like when when she finds out, she's like, oh, like this isn't going to be, what is it? Like, this isn't going to be anything bad or something like that. And like he gets punched, or like this isn't going to be considered child abuse or something like that. And he gets punched. And I'm like, oh, that was another little fun pun, but it's a serious situation, but they try to make it funny,
Yeah, because they definitely get arrested for assault or battery or whatever it is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then they realize they forget the other kids too in the car.
Yeah, I was really surprised at the way that ended, like that they just get escorted to the jail right away, and
I know.
I was like, wow, I wasn't expecting that. So I guess there are some twists in here. And then, of course, they go to the hearing, and then they look really bad because all this stuff had happened, like right the day before. which is it's unfortunate, but still works out for them in this case. I was curious to hear your thoughts on the end, because we find out during the hearing that Lizzie was kind of orchestrating this big thing to kind of get her original family back with her mom, and that she was signing all the papers, and but her mom was still kind of struggling with her addictions and everything, and ends up betraying her again, where she says like, yeah, I'm ready, let's go, we're gonna do it, we're gonna be together all again, and then when it comes down to it, she doesn't show up, and then Lizzie has this kind of breakdown, and she runs away from everyone. And I was just curious on your thoughts, like how fast it seems like she just kind of puts her guards down towards the situation. And again, I know it's a movie, and it has to, you have to have like this outcome, pretty straightforward. But she seems to be like, oh, okay.
I was gonna mention a little bit, like when the 2-6 hearing becomes what's it called, reunification with their mother, and then they show the mom, and the judge is like asking her questions, like, if she's ready, and you kind of see the hesitation in the mom. And so it's kind of like a little foreshadowing of like, is the mom ready or not? And then you see Lizzie like kind of pressuring her as well, when she's like, she's been like sober for about 5 months, and she kind of like looks, and then she's like, yes, and she's like, so are you ready? Like, are you capable? And then she looks again, and Lizzie's like, Mom, like, Mama, come on, like, say it. And then the mom's like, yes. And then you get that whole, like, okay, they're going to be unified, but then they don't. So I think there was a little bit of a foreshadowing right there that you could see, that later on they say, oh, Lizzie, you're the one that filled out the papers. And she's like, yeah, I helped. So what? Like, she's ready. I know she's ready, because she really wants... I think she even says, like, tell her to come in and tell her that I want to talk to her so she can come and she can take me home. Like, Lizzie's home is still her mom. And so I think that when she comes out, of her little hiding spot and talks to them, and how she's telling them, like, okay, I know that when you came into, this situation of, like, adopting kids, like, you were looking more for, like, Juan and Lita's age, so I know that you don't want me, like, you don't really want me, like, I'm already older. So I do think that it was really, really fast, like, okay, you're gonna be with us and this and that. But I think from her perspective, like, it's more of like, I'm already 15, I'm already almost an adult, like, in reality, like, I'm not wanted. Like, she still feels unwanted because her own mother didn't want her. Like, how are they gonna want her? But then they're like, no, you're going to be with us no matter what. And, like, we do know you, and I'm going to give you away, we're going to buy you a dress for prom, and I'm going to give you away in your wedding. So they do kind of skip a couple of steps. But I think that there's also that, like, that insecurity in Lizzie that gives us more of, like, why she's saying no, like, I know that you guys don't want me. Like, it's because that insecurity, like, she just got rejected by her own mother, but she's being accepted by them. So it could also be like, okay, like I've been with you for a while, and you guys have shown me that you care. And, in reality, when you see those things, like, them going to the school because she's sexting, and, basically, like, grounding her and being their parent or her parents, so she could, really, really see, like, hey, we're here, like, in the good and the bad, no matter what. Like, yes, we said that we wanted to give you guys back to CPS or whatever, but we haven't. Like, we're still here, kind of thing, So, yeah, it could be a little bit of, like, well, she doesn't really want to be adopted, but it's more, I feel like, her insecurity, because she thinks that they don't want to adopt her. And then once she reads the letter, mushy gushy, and then that's when she's like, all right, okay, I guess we can go home. And I think also, like, she would be doing it for her siblings. I think if I was in her place too, like maybe, I still wouldn't feel